Hi guys, welcome back to LDGaming, and in today's video, we'll be talking about keyboards.
LDGaming.
So the first keyboard appeared in the 1970s. And for me guys, this is a bit weird because come to think of it, the first typewriter appeared in the 1800s. So imagine, it's 100-year difference. The keyboard originated from the typewriter. So come to think of it, 100 years. It took 100 years for the typewriter to evolve into the keyboard. So what happened in those 100 years? Were there problems with technological advances? Were there problems with finances, getting new kinds of materials and stuff? Well, there's one way to find out. So let's jump in, guys. So the first typewriter was invented in 1868. Basically, it will be here. The picture will be shown there. The first typewriter was invented by Christopher Latham Scholes. So I guess I pronounced it right. It will be here. You can also check that if I pronounce it right. It was patented by him on January 1, 1968. And it became the basis of our modern keyboards. It was mass produced though 1 decade after by the Remington Company, and it is where everyone had the typewriter. During this time, the typewriter was very heavy, basically because this was during the Industrial Revolution era. So technology during that time is that everything is made out of metal because they need to be sturdy, they need to be mass produced. Basically, they had to be durable. So it was made of metal, it is heavy, and it is very hard to use. So moving on to our next fact, basically the next piece in the keyboard history. So the next fact is very far from the original one, basically, because the next fact or the next piece of history is in 1931, wherein it is the invention of the teletype machine. Basically, it is the telegraph typewriter. It's a keyboard or a typewriter, sort of, wherein you can type and you can type it, and it is somehow connected to the telephone lines like a fax or something. I don't know about fax and those early telecom technologies, but the thing is, it is connected to the telephone line. So they use these, it's called the punch card systems, and the key punches are used then, are transcoded to the computer to move words and sentences through telephone lines. So moving on, electromechanically controlled typewriter. What? So it's a electromechanical typewriter. Basically, our typewriter has improved already, and it now uses electricity, and with that, it uses magnets, electromagnets, to transcribe its data to a ribbon, a magnetic strip, a magnetic ribbon, wherein you get to transcribe or transcode your data to a machine, basically a large ass computer, wherein you can forward data and send data, receive data in a telegraph line, that I don't know of, once again. And it is developed in 1948, which is 17 years after the first key punch typewriter. So moving on to 1964. Here it gets modern. The typewriter gets a close fix to the modern keyboard. So in 1964, it is now merged into the video display terminals, basically a monitor. It's like a laptop that you plug in. It's a computer, but the thing is, it only has a big ass monitor with the typewriter. So before, when you use a typewriter, you use a paper, right? So now that we have the monitor, you can now edit, backspace, then type your new words, your corrected words, because you can now correct it using the monitor. So it was introduced in 1964. And now we go to the pinnacle of this historical timeline, the first keyboard. So it is in 1970 that the first keyboard was introduced. And keyboards in the 1970s are not your traditional keyboards. It's not like the keyboards that we use today. Why? Because it is only used by engineers and programmers, wherein it doesn't look like anything else in this room, in your computer area. It's a bare bones keyboard wherein it doesn't have a cover or anything at all, just the buttons itself. Next, 1974, the personal keyboard. So in 1974, the keyboard that we use today is now somehow like that keyboard, because it is now introduced on all personal computers or PCs during that time. So one of the leaders of this one is IBM. So in which in 1978 they are now bundled in computers, like as I've said earlier, like laptops. So but this one you still have to plug it in. So you have those cathode ray tubes with the keyboards on the bottom. So the second most exciting part of this timeline, or historical timeline rather, is that in 1986, IBM released the M keyboard. So what is the M keyboard? The M keyboard is now your modern keyboard. And what's good is that I have the exact keyboard, guys. So here it is. It's a thick, very thick keyboard, and as you can see, it looks like your modern keyboard, guys, because that's why it's M as modern. And it's developed by, once again, by IBM, the inventor of computers, or inventor rather of business machines. So it's nice. It's a mechanical keyboard, but it's not your modern mechanical keyboard wherein you mash it, you do anything with it, you play with it, press all of the keys and nothing happens, guys. This one has a mechanical switch. It's a mechanical keyboard, as you can see, as you can hear rather, but it has no new features of the, or new improvements of the new mechanical keyboard that we have nowadays, like this one, because this one you can only press like 2 keys at a time, which is the shift with the letters for you to have the capital letters, and type one by one for you to have your letters, your small case letters. So basically that feature is called N key rollover. So this keyboard has no N key rollover whatsoever. Basically it's just a input keyboard. So moving on to our next keyword fact is that in 1990, 4 years after the first modern keyboard was produced, is the memory keyboard. So I don't have any keyboards or any membrane keyboards that are old enough, but one thing is for sure, Apple produced the first membrane keyboards because of technological advancement, and it is easier now to produce the membrane keyboard because you now use a new material, silicone. So with silicone and a metal, you can now produce the membrane keyboard, which is much lighter, much cheaper, and much more durable than the traditional or the old mechanical keyboard. So what I have here is a membrane keyboard from MSI. It's a DS4100 from, I can remember, yeah, DS4100. It's a membrane keyboard, as you can see here. Just a moment. So here, as you can see, It's just like your normal keyboard, right? But the difference is that it's very thin. Why? Because it uses silicone as a dampener and as a keystroke guide instead of using metal or plastic. So it's a good keyboard because it's cheap, it's easy to produce, and it's light, so it's travel friendly. But the problem here is that the keystrokes, you don't feel it that well, especially when you are typing and also when you are gaming. So, moving on to our next fact. So now, we move on to present keyboards. So, basically, these are the keyboards of today. Basically, there are two types, wired and wireless. Yes, guys, we already have wireless keyboards, and it's like this one, a keyboard with no wires whatsoever. So basically, it's a keyboard that uses radio frequency, which is a technological advancement in telecommunication. It is now used or utilized in peripherals such as this one, the keyboard. So, other types, we have wired keyboards, but there are two types. The regular ones, the one that you use for office, and one for enthusiast class or the gaming class, because gamers are the thing with computers nowadays. So we have here a mechanical keyboard. Basically, it's the one I use every day because this one is the best keyboard for me. So it's here, and if you want to see my review of this keyboard, click in the card there. There. So it uses a mechanical switch, basically just like the original mechanical keyboard, but it has a very big difference. It has low latency, it has N key rollover wherein you could smash all the buttons and still record all of those at one time, and also it has the beautiful, here we go, RGB. Basically, in 2016, 2017, and now 2018, RGB is the king. So, so in 2018, everything should be in RGB. So, and I'm a fan, guys. So I have the RGB keyboard, the RGB mouse, RGB mousepad, the RGB headphones, and I have RGB lights, which is there, and it doesn't work. There, so there's white first, then we go to, there we go, guys. So basically, I'm an RGB fan. So let's turn that off. So lastly, the future of keyboards. So as some of you guys might have known, there are now keyboards that exist in many forms. Basically, you have your foldable keyboards wherein you could fold it in half. There are also roll-up keyboards wherein you could roll them up, just like a normal mousepad would do, or a regular paper would do, wherein you could roll it like a newspaper. Then, put it on your desk. It will straighten up. Then just plug it on your USB port and you can use it right away, just like any normal keyboard would do. Basically, that is a membrane keyboard made entirely out of silicone. And also, there's this new technology called laser keyboards, wherein there is basically a virtual keyboard which is shot using laser to your desk, and you just put your fingers on the letters onto your desk, basically, which is virtual, and it will register it as a letter as if you're typing on a regular keyboard. So there you have it, guys, the future, the history, and the present day keyboards. So I hope you guys like this video, and if you like this video, click that like button. Please subscribe to LD Gaming, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.